Okay, this is video part 2. We already went through the steps. Step 1, to isolate the absolute value on one side. Step 2, set up the positive and negative situation. Step 3, solve and check your answers. Number 31 from our homework tonight is this. And step 1 says for us to isolate the absolute value. So we want to get rid of the plus 8 and this times 2 out in the front. So I'm going to subtract 8 first. Cancel, subtract 8. I end up with 6 take away 8. That's a negative 2. So let me rewrite my whole equation. I have a 2 absolute value, 3x minus 4 absolute value equals negative 2. For my final step, I'm going to divide by 2. That way it cancels, and divide by 2. Now, notice that I have absolute value of 3x minus 4, and I have equals a negative 1. Now, at this point, I could actually stop what I'm doing. Now, I know normally we would say we want to set up the positive and the negative situation, but at this point, because I have the absolute value equals a negative number, we know that that's an impossibility. This absolute, whatever this is in here, it doesn't matter if x is 5, negative 5, it's going to end up being a positive value. Because when you take the absolute value of whatever you have, it's going to be positive. There's no way that when you take the absolute value of something, you get negative. It's impossible. So at that point, you just say no, as in no solution. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, I don't want you to get too confused. The bottom line is, if you have an absolute value equaling a negative number, then you could say no solution. Let me say that one more time. Make some space for it there. This is the rule, guys. If you have an isolated absolute value equaling a negative number, okay, so once you get the absolute value by itself, you have the absolute value by itself. If it equals a negative number, now keep that in mind, a negative number, not a variable, just the number. No variable, just the number. So right here you have negative 1. So right here you could stop and say no solution. Now, if this was a negative 1x, you can't stop. You have to keep going, okay? But because you have the absolute value of a negative, the absolute value equaling a negative number, we know that that's impossible. There is no way that when you take the absolute value of something, you get a negative number as an answer. I recommend you rewind it, listen to that again, okay? And that way you got this rule down and you don't have to do any extra work on your homework or during the test. So let me keep this fact right here, but I'm just going to move it to the side, okay? And let me work on another problem from our homework. Let's take a look at number 41. So if you take a look at your question 41 from page 31 on our homework, you'll see that it's a negative out in front of the absolute value. So when you go through the steps, step 1, isolate the absolute value. You need to get these absolute values by itself on your right side of the equal sign. So you need to get rid of this minus. So you could divide both sides by negative 1, okay? In other words, it's going to change all the signs. This is going to be our new equation, new absolute value equation, negative 8z minus 20 equals the absolute value of 2z plus 4. No more negative sign. So we've isolated it. Now we could do the positive and negative situation. But before I do that, I'm going to switch it so it'll look nicer. And I know what you're thinking. Right now you're saying, wait a minute, this is the absolute value equaling negatives, and that's impossible. When you do the absolute value, it's going to be something positive. But keep in mind, if we take a look back at these notes right here, it says that no variable could be involved on the outside, okay? So when you isolate it, if it's equal to a negative number, I'm just talking this whole thing is a negative number. Is this a negative number? No, there's a z right there. There's a variable involved. So this rule does not apply on this problem. You cannot just say no solution. That would be incorrect. So let me make this smaller and set up a positive and negative situation. The positive situation is to rewrite it without the absolute value sticks. And there it is. I rewrote it exactly the way it is. Exactly what I see here, I rewrote it down here, but without the absolute value sticks. I took the absolute values off. Identical. Negative 8z, minus 20, identical. Now for the negative situation, the only thing I want to do is change the right side of this equation. So I am going to change these signs over here. For the negative situation, I change the signs on the right-hand side, make that a plus, make that a plus, and now I'm ready to go. Let me solve the left. I need to get z by itself on one side. I'm going to go plus 8z, plus 8z. That will be 10z. And I might as well do two steps in one. I don't recommend this, but I'm running out of space here. Subtract 4 cancels. Subtract 4. You're going to end up with a negative 24 on this side. And we bring down the equal sign right here in between them. And then I divide both sides by 10. So I'm going to divide this side by 10 and this side by 10. We're going to get z equals, if you reduce by 2, negative 12 over 5. Okay, z equals negative 12 over 5. On the other one, subtract 2z from both sides to get this to cancel. New equation, 4 equals 6z plus 20, and then subtract 20, and then at the very end divide both sides by 6. There we go. So your final answer is going to be z equals, this cancels 16 over 6, that becomes negative 8 over 3, negative 8 over 3. So we have two answers here, the negative 12 over 5 and negative 8 over 3. Now here's the problem. You need to take both of these answers and plug them back in to this z and this z. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Take this answer first, plug it into both z's. If it gives you a true statement, then that is a solution. Take this answer and plug it into both z's. And if it is a solution, then if it's a true statement, then this one is a solution. Sometimes both of these will work. Sometimes only one of them works. Sometimes none of them work. You would say no solution. In this case, only one works. The negative 12 over 5 does not work. Only the negative 8 over 3. I don't have time to explain that, but hopefully you guys try it and understand it.